Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GAC News Desk. I'm your host, Jay Shorr. It's wonderful to be here back again in 2023 in wonderful, warm South Miami Beach. I'd like to give a personal shout out to Dr. Randy Waldman for allowing this conference to take place. This is one of a dozen that I'm doing all year. And this is by far one of the best events that I can share because it brings in dermatology, aesthetic, cosmetic, plastic surgery, dermatology, facial and body plastic surgery. And it goes into an injectables track, it goes into a medical track, and it goes into a business management track. And this is one of the events that has full sessions of practice management and business development throughout the entire session. So I personally, once again, would like to thank Dr. Waldman. So people say to me, Jay, what are the most important parts of what you do today? Well, let me share who I am. I am the CEO and founder of Shorr Solutions, an international practice management consulting firm specializing in the operational, administrative, financial health of your aesthetic, cosmetic, surgical, and med spa practices. So we help practices around the world, literally, in the initial startup phase, whether you are coming out of institution, academia, or even private practice. So we'll help you start residency, fellowships. We'll help you start your business. And then there are those clients that have been in business for a long time, but just can't get over that hump. And then lastly, we'll help practices in the exit strategy and succession planning to help you elevate your practice for sale, whether you want to sell it to an individual doctor, private equity, or venture capital. So what are the most compelling issues today? First of all, there's two. People really are not aware of what it takes to create a real live business plan. A business plan isn't just to capitalize to get a loan, although that is a major portion of why we do business plans. And a business plan should really specialize in operational, administrative, financial, and marketing. Many times people do it to go to financial institutions or angel investors, because when you try to borrow money to fund your business, the one thing that most banks and everybody wants to know, how do I get my money back? So you have to start and you have to do the business plan to allow who you are, what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and the revenue that you believe you can generate from it. That's your business plan. But let's face it, don't we all have to negotiate when we're trying to buy our capital equipment, when we're trying to hire people, when we're trying to do everything to properly, effectively run, manage, and operate our business? Of course we do. So what are the key factors about negotiation? Tip number one is you have to understand everybody's needs and objectives. The objective of the other party that wants to sell something is to sell something. The objective of the person who is the buyer is naturally to negotiate and get the best price possible for the most effective capital equipment, best lease, best people to work for them. But you have to understand what you're looking for, because it's not always a one size fits all. What might be good for you as a dermatologist may not be good for you as a plastic surgeon, may not be good for you as a PA, nurse practitioner, esthetician, or whomever that wants to open up your practice. And even when you've already opened up your practice, there's so many things to negotiate while you're in it. Tip number two, don't ever be afraid to ask questions and insist on answers. Now, why do I say that? How many times do you go to negotiate something, and when you walk out, you say, I forgot to ask that question? Is it too late? It's never too late, because I'm going to share with you in a couple minutes, why it's really never too late. But if you have a question about something, don't be afraid to insist on the answer. I have a favorite line, and they say there are more things to sell than there are people to buy. Now, at this wonderful conference that we're at right here, Global Aesthetics Conference, I'm right outside of the exhibit hall. And right outside of this exhibit hall, there are many vendors selling everything from lasers, capital equipment, skincare products, websites, electronic medical records, and everything you need to effectively operate your practice. But the prices aren't the same. Even though the quality of some of the merchandise is the same, it may not be. Ask any one of the vendors. And I applaud the vendors. However, it really is up to you to negotiate and effectively get the best price that you can get. So you have to insist on answers when you have a question. And be sure to keep an eye out for all the hidden details. Because when you sign that contract, when do you ever really go back to the contract again? Well, let's step back for a second. What do you do with the contract once you sign it? You put it in some drawer? Oh, I guess you can tell that's the vintage in me, or the maturity age in me. No, we don't get physical contracts anymore, do we? No, we get them all done electronically. We execute them from DocuSign. But when is the next time that you ever look at that agreement that you signed? When there's a problem. So always be careful and look out for those hidden details. I call it Section 2, subsection A, subsection I, in that 2.5. That it's the heretofores and the whereas, all those legal terminology, which is very important, by the way, because what our goal as consultants is to help protect you from you in spite of you when you're signing this agreement. Because many times we purchase on emotion, or shall I say, most of the time we purchase on emotion. There is something to sell. I want to buy it. I'm told that I can make X amount of revenue by X amount of treatments. However, the one thing I caution you about is you have to have the patient base, you have to have the location, and you have to have the proper marketing in order to do that. So whether it's the proper marketing from websites and social media done by incredible companies like Incredible Marketing, it's very, very important that you have the wherewithal to be able to get those people in, to be able to buy, and to be able to sell you the proper thing. All right? Like a good poker player, I used to be a poker player. I look for the twitch factor when I'm negotiating. What does that mean? Well, as the seller, if I'm a capital equipment or whatever, I'm looking at the reaction of the buyer. Because if I notice what they call a twitch factor, in the poker game, it's called a tell. So what does that mean? If I'm uncomfortable with something, you never know, a lot of people will have facial movements like this, or they'll be very uncomfortable. So I look for the twitch factor because it only may be in microseconds that you're able to pick it up. So when people try to negotiate with me, I intentionally give them a twitch factor, like to make them feel that I'm uncomfortable during this negotiation. Why? If I can make you as the seller feel that I'm uncomfortable as the buyer, you're not going to be as hard pressed to keep pushing me when you know that I'm already uncomfortable with where we are at this point in the negotiation. So I do it intentionally, and I allow them to feel that maybe they have to come down a little bit. Tip number 3, prepare and compare. I always take a piece of paper and I draw a line down the middle and a line over across. On the left column, I put A, the right column, I put B. It's almost like a balance sheet. It's a business balance sheet, and I put what are the strong points and what are my negative points. Because there's always going to be strong points in a negotiation. What's the strong point? I want the equipment. A strong point, it's going to make me a lot of money. What's a bad point? I don't have the proper electric to put that unit in. I have to put it in another room. I'm buying a laser. I'm full of mirrors. I have windows in that room, so I have to retrofit it. I'm buying a camera. Where do I put it? All right, so there's already these types of things. I put the positive and the negative, and somewhere in the middle is where I'm going to feel that I'm most comfortable with purchasing that is going to benefit me, because it has to be a win-win on both sides. Now, I have the consult to the agreement. I have to listen, I have to educate, and I have to consult. I listen to what's being told to me. I need to be educated, because nobody really loves putting their hand in their pocket unless they know there's going to be that positive risk-reward ratio. Now, sure, there are certain times to buy pieces of equipment. At the end of a year, when you have to dump a lot of money, if you're in a profitable business, to take advantage of a potential Section 179 tax credit, because it helps alleviate the tax burden that you're going to have at the end of a year. But I really need to have you consult with me to make sure that I really have that right piece of equipment, because there's so many pieces of equipment in here. Now, when is the right time to buy it? Now, if I need it, or I can buy it next year. Let me share something with you. We're here at a consult. We're here at a conference. And many times you're going to get very, very good deals at these conferences, because they'll give it to you as a conference special. However, I'm a national consultant and I do a dozen of these shows a year. So I say, let me have the opportunity to negotiate these things for you. Some things strictly are not negotiable on the capital side, but on the ancillary tips, ancillary tubing, extra things that they'll give you, it does have monetary value. So it is actually a really, really good idea. Here, in order to convince Jay, you need certain things. It is facts versus opinions. If it's your opinion against my opinion, you have a very slim chance of convincing me. If it's your opinion against my facts, you're never going to win. If it's your facts against my facts, once again, we may have a little bit of a stalemate and you may win. But if it's your facts against solely my opinion, 100% I'm going to respect you, because your facts are going to override my opinion. And you're going to teach me something that I already didn't know, because it was a great, great fact. Tip number 4, understand the level of authority of the people that you're dealing with. I call that political impotency. Why? Because sometimes the person that you are negotiating with doesn't have the level of authority to be able to give you the absolute best price. Mainly because many of the salespeople are on commission. And therefore, the higher the price that they sell it to you for, the higher their commission. But if you get to the top level that effectively can make that decision, when I negotiate, I try to make it a one-stop deal. On behalf of my client, what I'll do is go to the vendor, hopefully the VP of sales or the director or even the owner, and say, look, if you can match this price, we have a deal today. Because I've already been given the authority by my client to make that deal happen. I just don't sign it. They sign it. And this way, it cuts all the time delay and negotiation time factor between the time that the salesmen have to make another deal. So it's very important that you know your level of authority. Tip number 5, insist on putting everything in writing. Because by the time something goes wrong, the next time you go look at that contract may be in the drawer. The person who promised you something is already gone. The only time that something is binding verbally is in poker. Call, raise, fold. That's the only time. I said, he said, she said doesn't hold up. So it's very important that you get everything in writing so that you can always go back to the table and prove whatever you were told is what they were told and what they mean. And lastly, don't ever be afraid to walk away from the deal, because you can always come back. Because like I said, when we first started this, there are more things to sell than there are buyers. And if you walk away from the deal, you also have the opportunity to go and search and research for another deal. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've given you some information and some top pearls on the definition of how you do your business plan and the relative importance of proper negotiating tips. And I'd like to thank once again Dr. Randy Waldman for hosting this conference and allowing me to be a speaker and moderator at this conference. I'm your host, Jay Shorr.